Hey everybody, thanks for joining me here and thanks for checking out my podcast. Don't forget to subscribe to my YouTube channel and click the notification bell for new episodes. You can also find Shine Without Shame on Spotify and Apple Podcasts.
But another important thing as well that we need to look at and be honest with is our boundaries. If you have people or society, a parent, a boyfriend, in the boundary where it should just be yourself, you're never gonna get to know yourself. You're never gonna love yourself because you have somebody else there. The place where we can begin is knowing that there's a realm where no one has access to. That's the place where you get your inspired action. That's where you enjoy yourself. That's where you get to admit, I like vanilla ice cream and I do not like chocolate ice cream. But if we have somebody in that space who loves chocolate ice cream, oh, I think I need to like chocolate ice cream as well, because this person who means a lot to me that I have in this very personal bubble of mine, they don't like vanilla. So if they don't like vanilla and I like vanilla, well, now what I like is wrong because it's wrong to them. So what I'm trying to say is that our boundaries is very important to look at. Do we have a space where it's just us, where we enjoy ourselves, where we can get to know ourselves, where we're okay to say no to everything else? Because this is a place where I get to meet myself. And even deeper than that, I have my own personal place where it's my meeting place with God. I don't let anyone in there. And then I learned that I can't let anyone else into the place where I meet myself. I learned that through my early experiences with friends and stuff who were influencing my likes and dislikes and my personality because I was allowing them to. I was bringing them so close to me that their identity became my identity. So we also need to look at our boundaries and what we're letting change us. That comes to the thing that I love to tell people: do not let anything or anybody change who you are, ever. I don't care. Do not let anyone change it. I don't care if it's your mother, your best friend, your husband, or your wife, because people who genuinely love you unconditionally want you for who you are, not for who you think they want you to be. And the more you can be authentic, the more you can be real and honest with yourself about who you are, the more you can attract what's authentically you into your reality, because our external reality is a reflection of our internal reality.
That is an important point.
Yes,
and
it is an important point.
I do definitely appreciate the idea of boundaries. I mean, I think that my language for that has evolved. I don't necessarily use the word boundaries, but I think that's an important starting place to honor yourself, right? To honor yourself and have that self-worth, and know that you're responsible. Each person is responsible for their life. They're accountable for their own life, not for anyone else's, and vice versa. I do appreciate the idea of being clear about the fact that we're responsible for our lives, and we're really our own self-authority. Even though there is authority in our lives, and especially when you're young, you rely on all the adults around you to guide you and protect you and teach you. But there is this idea of self-authority that I love, because we know what's best for us, especially as we continue to grow and develop. We really should be the keeper of the keys to our own house. And we should just be able to decide.
I love that analogy. Share your keys wisely.
That's right.
Share your keys wisely. You don't want just anyone in your house. Let those keys be, valuable, because what's inside the house is super valuable. You are so worthy. You are of unlimited worth. And if you give those keys to someone who's going to walk right in and spit on your couch and eat everything in your fridge, you're going to be left with a pretty disastrous feeling. that might lead you to other disastrous consequences.
That's right. Yes. And I think it, it's a continuum, or in other words, that's why I like to use the word evolution, because there are stages. For someone, maybe they're just at the stage where they are only able to and capable right now of finding that one thing that they can genuinely say they love about themselves, right? And for others, maybe they've got practice at that, but they want to get better at honoring and trusting that they know what's best for themselves. I mean, it's it's a process, but it's also it's an evolution. You know, you have to take the steps, and then you build, and you get better at, you become more, not just clear, but more sophisticated in your ability
Mhm.
to respect who you are, to be who you are, and to offer that to the world. So I certainly just want to be clear that I never have ever thought or believed, and from my own personal experience, know that you don't get from A to Z today, tomorrow. It is the process, but I think that, you know, when you're evolving or you're progressing, you can look back and you can say, oh yeah, gosh, that's where I was 5 years ago.
Mhm.
Okay. And then now, you know, this is where I'm at. And I can tell that now I'm in a place where I'm actually even taking it to the next level. It's going to look different. It should look different and feel different as we continue on this path, because it is it is a progressive path. And so I
Yeah,
would
I think
want,
what you're saying though about the A to Z is super, super important. I completely agree. And I think that's actually where the shame can creep in. It's like,
mm,
oh, I feel like I'm worthy of being a CEO, and I want to be the CEO of my own company. I don't want to work for somebody else. And I want to, make a lot of money while I do it, for example. And I think that I should be there tomorrow. And I'm a failure because I'm not there tomorrow. And so that's when some dark, shameful feelings can creep in because, oh, I'm bad and I'm not good because I'm not there right now. So it is really important to realize that, I like this, a Beyonce wasn't made overnight. It's just like, it does take time to get there. And we shouldn't be afraid of being okay with where we are right now, because to get to Z is to admit where you are and you're at A right now, and find what's right for you in the moment right now, and reach out to others like-minded and find a solution. If you want something, you got to go get it. You got to figure it out. But there's people and there's things out there that want to help and support you, but you also have to be willing to take the first step.
yes. And I have learned to appreciate the quality or virtue of creativity more and more. I used to
Mhm.
think of creativity as, okay, you're an artist, or you're doing something that is in the realm of art performance, or
Mhm.
it's, and that was
Mhm.
what creativity was. And my understanding of creativity has expanded, especially in the last couple of years. Creativity applies to anything in life. It doesn't have to be about art or creating something that is seen as, you know, artistic, or as a craft. It can be applied to any area of life, to your
Mhm.
professional life, as you were just illustrating, to to a relationship, to a goal, there's to a problem, to a challenge of any kind, the most personal, or one that is affecting your family, your neighborhood, your community, your workplace. Creativity is about tapping into this sort of infinite or limitless reality, that there could be a myriad of ways to solve challenges and to meet problems. It doesn't have to look a certain way. And is, in my estimation, as long as what we're doing is something, it's on the path of being noble, right? We're not like cheating someone or deceiving
Mhm.
someone or manipulating someone, or oppressing someone. Without those, you know, with those things out of the way, we can be so creative with how we meet the challenges of our lives, or how we support others in
Mhm.
meeting their challenges.
I like that.
It's it's an idea that, yeah, it's a quality. It's to me, it's a virtue, that I think we can play around with it.
And this,
I think that's what creativity fosters, is this idea of play. And I don't mean like work then play. I just mean play in whatever moment you need to get out of that rigid kind of way of doing things, or the, thinking about
like, stop taking yourself so seriously.
that too. Absolutely. Because right, when
Stop
you do
it.
that, yeah, I know.
You're
We're all
too
subject.
serious.
I know. So
Laugh at
many.
yourself for a moment, you know?
Exactly. And then in that laughter, or in that moment when you are stepping back from being so serious, you might also then see, oh, I have a different perspective now on this
Mhm.
situation. Or, oh, I just realized I could do this, allowing ourselves to kind of find uh the truth and what's needed. It's an
I like
important
that you
quality.
recognize how important creativity is, because for those who don't know about the chakra systems, we have seven, and it starts from the root chakra. And then the second one is the sacral chakra, which is orange and governs actually creativity. So it actually is a fundamental thing for every single person. Creativity isn't just, as you said, in art, it is in our everyday life, because in the sacral chakra, it's both creativity and emotions. And that kind of goes back to what I was saying about how we feel affects how we move, and how we move affects what we manifest, because we are consciously creating. We are creative beings. We came to planet Earth as souls in these bodies to create, to manifest our reality. And so that creativity is every day, constantly. So that's why our emotions and how we feel about what we're creating is so important. So that's another way for other people to look at it as well. As like, how are you creating your reality?
Yes. Yes. I also, I know this was something you said in the very beginning, but I want to connect it to where we are now in the conversation. You shared about your feeling as a child, feeling shamed and feeling that you weren't worthy because of your understanding or your belief that everyone around you was perfect and you weren't. But I relate to that in terms of this sense of belonging in the world. When I was a child, I didn't feel like I belonged, and I think that I used to equate it for a period of time. I equated it with having darker skin, being black and or brown, because I come from a mixed background. So I I recognize for me that was a part of my, not my inherent reality, but my belief was that I just don't belong here. And I always thought it was something related to, again, like race or ethnicity. And then I've recognized as time has gone on, as I've gone through so many things in life, had so many experiences, changed, evolved, grown, healed, that that sense of not belonging was also for me about learning, like you said, about my reality, like who I truly am in this world, my gifts, my abilities, the fact that I'm not perfect, that no one is. Um, it, the sense of belonging for me also came with the moment I started to really accept myself. And I I wonder if I used to think that that was like not belonging was my own thing. Like no one else in the world doesn't have no one else has the same feeling of not belonging. I just thought it was like my own burden as a child
Mhm.
and as a young person. And then as I go through life, I meet a lot of people who articulate, maybe they don't expressly say, I feel like I don't belong, but they say it in so many other words. And I
Mm.
thought, I've been thinking about this idea of feeling like you belong. Again, thinking that when I was younger, it was just, oh, that was just me. That was just my hang up. That was just my issue. And then I recognized, oh, I think that this is something that a lot of people experience. And there was nothing special about my burden, or my pain. It was unique to me, yes, how I experienced it. But I thought, wait a minute, I've been thinking, wait a minute, if this is something that a lot of people actually feel or believe, then wow, okay, we've all got some things to deal with. But we can also, I think, help each other in that process, right? I mean,
it cultivates compassion. When you have suffered and you know what it feels like to suffer, you can relate to another and hold space for them as well.
absolutely. But I also think that, wait a minute, I think that a lot of people are experiencing this. People who I maybe even look out in the world and say they've got it going on, and they seem to like be so comfortable when they're around people. And then I've learned, through different moments, like I don't, maybe in that moment I don't think they felt like they belonged, or they said something that made me realize that. And I thought, okay, this is something that we all do have an experience with from time to time. I think though for some of us it may stem back to something so deep and so early on in our lives that can stay with you and almost feel like your foundation
Well,
until
how are you
you.
supposed to evolve if you don't know, if you're not aware? Everything starts with self-awareness.
Exactly.
Once you bring awareness, that's awareness. That's the key word right there.
Yes. And
Awareness.
self-love.
Awareness of self. Before you can even have self-love, before you can even
Right.
realize I don't actually genuinely love myself, or I do genuinely love myself, I have to be aware of myself.
Absolutely.
You on
Absolutely.
autopilot,
Yes.
or are you on purpose?
Yes, yes, yes. Self-awareness, absolutely. And then the next step for me was self-love. And that was a many year journey. Didn't
Mm.
happen in just, a month. But I noticed for me that even in just everyday moments when I might be in a situation where I feel like, oh, I don't belong here. Do I belong here? Or I don't feel welcomed, maybe even. What I have learned is that may be a reality. I may be somewhere where I am not welcomed, and it may not be said, but it may be the belief of the people around me. Whatever it is, though, there is something that I've learned to tap into, and I wonder if you relate to this,
Mhm.
is it is self-love, but it's also this understanding or this belief that I'm connected to the creator. I'm connected to something greater than me. And I wouldn't have been here. I think you said this in different words. I was created to be here. I mean, I'm not perfect, but I'm here. Like that is me being here is my permission to belong and to be loved and to be worthy. Um sure,
To
it's
shine
a
without
journey.
shame.
Yes, and it is a
It's
journey
you have
for many of
permission.
us. Yes, it is a journey for many of us to get to that place of understanding this reality and accepting it. But that is the reality. That is the truth. And the essence is like, if we're here, something believed we should be here. And something, was really a part of creating who we are. And okay, okay, I do have permission to be here. I don't need to
Mhm.
look for others. I will say though that there is an understanding I have about, there are some environments where I don't need to be, because I don't feel welcomed, because people have all kinds of other things they're trying to deal with that they're not conscious of maybe. And so,
But that
okay,
comes from
I
your genuine self-awareness, right? That
exactly,
self-awareness knowing that
I
I don't even need to be here doesn't bring me anything.
exactly. And I think to get to that place though, yes, you do have to have that
Exactly. You
self-awareness,
got to
and you
do the
have to
work.
there's a there yeah, you yes, it involves a willingness to be open and honest,
Mhm.
and that is a process for sure. I was
Awesome.
curious what if you related to anything I just said.
Definitely. I think everything you said is very important. And a lot of times people actually they want to change and they want better for themselves, but they're actually afraid of letting go of what's necessary to let go in order to um, go into the new. But since the new is so scary because you don't know, it hasn't even happened yet, letting go is very hard. I think that's probably the hardest part is letting go of the past and letting go of what's familiar and the shameful feelings or emotions, anything of that vibrational frequency, shame, hate, all of that. Um, it's scary to let go of the people, the emotions, the experiences that created that in the first place because that's what you're comfortable in. You keep sabotaging your life because that's what you think you deserve and what you're used to. So letting go of the things that no longer serve us in order to invite what's new, even though you don't know what it might look like, is fundamental as well, which is really important. And I just want to mention that because sometimes, we don't know where to start, but sometimes, I just want to, give people options, different ways of like facing this obstacle, because I know that a lot of people out there are feeling this way. They're bound and they're still they're finding themselves in their pain when that's not going to get them anywhere.
Yeah, I think the idea that we're all worthy of being here and that we weren't created to suffer. I mean, suffering happens. I'm not denying that. Suffering happens in this realm of existence, but I don't believe that our sole purpose for being here was to suffer. And while many have and many are suffering, that is something that I hope more and more people are able to accept for themselves and then decide, well, what does that look like for me if I'm not really supposed to be suffering? What are the steps? And I know we've talked about a lot of steps. We've shared a lot of our own personal steps, and I hope that people find the relief they need on whatever path they're on and whatever their journey looks like and wherever they're at, on that journey of healing, of self-acceptance, of self-awareness, self-love. It is something that we are all walking this path of being a human here on this planet. And again, hopefully trying not to just survive, but hopefully thriving. That's what I wish for everybody. And I think you've, in your words, but also in the energy and the spirit of your words, Maya, you've shared so gracefully and so clearly and confidently about your journey with your challenges, with your trials and tribulations and tests, but also with those moments that have like recreated you, and have transformed you. And so it is quite an honor to know you and to be walking kind of along with you, on our own respective paths. And I'm grateful that we could have this conversation. Was there anything else that you wanted to say or share that you thought would be useful, or any other final thoughts you want to leave people with on your thoughts?
I think my final thoughts are just, there was a lot of information shared, a lot of different perspectives, a lot of levels of understanding. And so, to take a deep breath, anyone who's watching, and just kind of come back and remember that you don't have to try, you don't have to be or do anything in particular. You just need to be patient and compassionate and be open to receiving without judgment. And I oftentimes enjoy reading wise words from other teachers. Doesn't have to be, the greatest spiritual teacher. One of my favorite teachers is Maya Angelou. I'm named after her. I absolutely love her work. I love her message. And so for anyone, who needs some help, just looking to people who are inspiring can be really helpful when it comes to persevering through turbulations. So that's kind of what I want to leave everybody with. And just, to be patient. Everyone's going through a really tough time right now. We have high highs and really low lows, but we're going to make it out together. That's kind of like the point of our human consciousness that's ascending. We're going to make it out, and we are going to manifest better reality and society for all of us and our children and generations to come. Might not look like it in the moment, but we will. So I'm super grateful to be here and have an opportunity to talk about this, because not only does it help other people, but it helps me as well. So that's why it is important to talk and communicate with others. We need each other as much as we think that we don't need each other, as much as the pandemic isolated us from one another. We need each other. We need community. And we also need the people that don't think like us. We need that contrast. You wouldn't want everyone to be the same as you and to think just like you. That would be boring, and you would not be an individual. So embrace your individuality, embrace who you are, take your first step today. Oftentimes, I think that a lot of people regret later on in life that they didn't take more risks. So, and it's never too late. It's never too late. And I'll say that again, it's never too late to take a first step, a bold step in the direction that feels right for you. No matter what has happened in the past, you are not bound to the past. You're not bound to the decisions you made in the past. You are, like Tiffany said, evolving constantly, and you are the creator of your reality. One simple change in your mentality and everything else can shift. So, thank you.
Thank you, Maya. Eloquence and beauty. Those are the two virtues that came to mind while you were speaking.
Wow, thank you so much. I will embrace those. Thank you.
Yes, and I so appreciate what you said about us moving together forward, and that we're better together. And also, whatever was the past, whatever was before the pandemic, whatever was last week, we can't live in the past. Even we can't live in the past, like from 2 years ago or 2.5 years ago. It's a different world, and we're different people. Even if we stayed inside all the last 2 years and didn't talk to anybody, we're still not the same as who we were individually and collectively. And so I'm grateful that you've reminded us that we are going to need to acknowledge and embrace each other in a new way, so that we don't have to hold on to the past. And the past meaning like what we can honor and cherish our memories and our experiences,
the past is for you.
But in terms of our kind of collective progress, we're not in the past anymore. I mean, we are not that part of that reality anymore in terms of where we're heading. It's a new era. And I think the pandemic is a good marker of that, a very clear, distinct marker that things are not the way they used to be on all levels, personally and out in the world.
Thank goodness for that, because I like some good change.
Me too. And to the drivers out there on the road, it's not just you on the road. I'd like to say, remember, we are all in this together. Oh, I've like nearly been run off the road a couple of times in the last year. It's been scary. I think that people forgot. Oh yeah, we were in a pandemic, and I guess technically we still are. I don't know if it's officially ended, but we're not. We're on the road again, and we are with other people. It's not like it was when we were in our houses by ourselves or just our families. So just a loving reminder about driving and thinking about not just yourself. And when you don't just think about yourself driving, it also helps you stay safe and others. So I'm being a little cheeky, but I'm also I've had some scary experiences recently, and I just was like flabbergasted by what seemed to be a lack of awareness and just a total focus on like, nope, just focusing on myself. So I'm not mad. I don't hold it against anybody, but just a loving reminder. So again, thank you, Maya. And I always end the podcast by asking my guest, and I'll ask you now, which television show, new or old, do you recommend and why?
Probably Breaking Bad.
Oh. What about that? I haven't actually watched it except for one episode.
Just great writing, great acting. Just a good story, like something totally unrealistic, but could totally be so realistic, and it takes you out of your reality, and it's a fun journey to go on if you can handle a little bit of a little bit of gore, just a little bit, and a little bit of violence, but it's just like, yeah, I'm a sucker for anything with a great script and great actors. You know, I don't really care what it is, but if it's good, it's good. Yeah.
I echo that.
How about you?
Well, I couldn't help but think right now of the shows. I grew up in the 80s, so there were so many interesting shows about family. Of course, The Cosby Show, which I hope to show my children. But also, yeah, I guess I'll just speak to that era. I think there was something about the 80s TV shows for me. I grew up in the States, and there were some that were, fluffy and superficial, but there were some that were deep. And I think Different Strokes is the one that comes to mind. Also, Different Strokes. I can't even tell you the premise anymore. It's something about a white man who adopts with his white daughter, and he adopts like two black sons. And again, this is like early mid 80s. We were in a different place of consciousness then about our collective reality in America, but there was something really authentic, or there were a couple of conversations I recall on that show that were really authentic, that were about race. I can't recall the dialogue, but
Yeah.
I'm gonna have to go back and actually find that show and rewatch it and see if it still rings powerful, like if it resonates powerfully for me, because there were dynamics of that show that, if like in the way I set it up as the characters, one might think, oh, like might cringe, like, oh, that can't be good. And that was the 80s. Oh, we were in such a different place. But I don't know. There was something real that came through that show. And that's also how I feel about the 80s in general. I feel like humanity, and I want to explore this more, maybe another kind of podcast or something else I'll explore, or a film project. But there was something about the 80s, and not just in the States, I mean, around the world. Even though I grew up in the States, of course, I only have that perspective. But there was something about where we were at collectively at one point in the 80s. We were starting to think globally. And there was this potential, it felt like, for world peace. It felt like, and this is me recalling as a child, but felt like we were really maybe about to step into the realm of world peace, possibly. And then I don't know what happened, but we did a big old U-turn. We were like, nope, we're not ready for that. And I know that there's recently been a lot of, there's been some movies and TV shows and series about the 80s. And it'd actually be interesting to go back and look at the 80s, what was going on culturally, where were we in terms of potentially or heading toward world peace, and then what made us flip it around. That's a whole nother exploration.
Well, still today, we don't know when we're going to head into that world peace. That's kind of like unknown. It's a collective thing. We think we're close, but then it might be another 150 years.
It could be
really
thousands.
I would rather just live my life, my short life, in unison with the ideas of world peace.
I'm with you. I'm so with you, Maya. But I do think that there have been moments in humanity collectively where we might have been more conscious collectively, and then we lost that consciousness. I just find that interesting.
Oh yeah,
I think
it's very interesting. That's like a conversation.
You know what I mean?
A whole other thing we can dive into.
Yes. So, but I'm with you. I want to head towards world peace. So just walk that walk. I'll walk it with you. Thank you again for being here.
Thank you so much, Tiffany, for having me. Really grateful to be here.